The arena filled with 15,000 people. Elvis in the middle of "Can't Help Falling in Love," his voice soaring. Then he stopped. Mid-verse. Microphone hanging loose in his hand. He turned. Walked off stage. Security frozen. Band confused. Crowd silent. He disappeared backstage. 60 seconds of absolute stillness. Then he returned. Something in his arms. Something small. Something that would change everything. Let me take you back to how this moment came to be. Memphis, Tennessee. August 1974. Elvis Presley was at the peak of his comeback. His Vegas residency had reignited his career. He was selling out arenas across America. That night, the Mid-South Coliseum was packed to capacity. Fans had been waiting for months to see the King perform live. But backstage, in the darkness behind the curtains, something else was happening. A maintenance worker named James had discovered a small dog near the loading dock. The puppy was shivering, covered in dirt, ribs showing through matted fur. No collar. No tag. Just a pair of sad brown eyes staring up at him. James tried to shoo the dog away, but it wouldn't leave. It sat there, as if waiting for something. Or someone. Elvis arrived at the venue 3 hours before showtime. He always did. He liked to feel the energy of the space, to walk the stage alone before the crowds arrived. As he moved through the backstage area, doing his pre-show ritual, he heard it. A soft whimpering sound coming from near the equipment cases. He stopped. Tilted his head. Listened. There it was again. He followed the sound until he found the source. A small dog, maybe 6 months old, cowering behind a speaker. Its eyes locked onto Elvis immediately. Not with fear. With recognition. As if it knew him. As if it had been waiting specifically for him. Elvis knelt down slowly. Extended his hand. The dog didn't move at first. Then, cautiously, it crept forward. Sniffed his fingers. And in that moment, something passed between them. An understanding. A connection that transcended words. Subscribe now, because what happens next defied every rule of show business. One of Elvis's handlers approached. "Mr. Presley, we need to get you to makeup. Show starts in 2 hours. Elvis didn't respond. He was completely focused on the dog. He gently picked it up, feeling how light it was, how fragile. The dog's heart was racing against his chest. "Has anyone fed this animal?" Elvis asked, his voice quiet but firm. The handler looked uncomfortable. "Sir, that dog showed up this afternoon. Security was about to call animal control." Elvis's jaw tightened. "Cancel that call." He stood up, still holding the dog. "Get me some water. And find me something this little one can eat. Now." The words spread quickly through the crew. Elvis had found a dog. Elvis was keeping the dog backstage. Elvis was refusing to put it down. His manager tried to intervene. "Elvis, you've got a show in 90 minutes. You need to focus." Elvis looked at him with those ice blue eyes. "I am focused. This creature needs help. Everything else can wait." They brought water in a bowl. Elvis set the dog down gently, watched it drink desperately. Someone found leftover chicken from catering. Elvis tore it into small pieces, fed them to the dog one by one, speaking softly the entire time. "It's okay now. You're safe. Nobody's gonna hurt you anymore." The transformation was visible. The dog's tail started to wag slightly. Its ears perked up. It looked at Elvis with absolute trust. In 30 minutes, Elvis had created a bond that most people couldn't forge in years. Showtime approached. Elvis's costume was ready. The crowd was roaring. But he wouldn't leave the dog. His team was getting anxious. "Mr. Presley, please. We need to get you on stage." Elvis nodded slowly. He picked up the dog again, held it close. "This one stays with me tonight." His manager protested. "Elvis, you can't take a dog on stage during a concert." Elvis smiled that famous half-smile. "Watch me." But nobody could have predicted what would happen when that curtain rose. The lights went down. The crowd erupted. Elvis's band started the opening number. He walked out to thunderous applause, the spotlight finding him instantly. But something was different. In his dressing room, just off stage, the dog was waiting. Elvis had arranged for someone to watch it, to keep it comfortable. But as he sang the first song, he kept glancing back. The dog was howling. Not in pain. In longing. It wanted to be near him. Between songs, Elvis spoke to his sound engineer. "Bring the dog out." The engineer thought he'd misheard. "Sir?" Elvis repeated more firmly. "Bring the dog to the stage. Now." There was confusion in the wings. But Elvis Presley's word was law in his show. Someone carefully carried the small dog toward the stage. Elvis was in the middle of "Can't Help Falling in Love" when he saw the stagehand approaching with the dog. And that's when he did it. He stopped singing. Right in the middle of the verse. The band faltered, confused. 15,000 people fell silent. Elvis lowered his microphone. Turned. Walked to the side of the stage. Took the dog from the stagehand's arms. The arena was so quiet you could hear individual breath. Nobody understood what was happening. Elvis walked back to center stage, the dog cradled against his chest. The spotlight operator didn't know what to do, so he kept the light on Elvis. On the big screen surrounding the arena, the image appeared. Elvis Presley holding a tiny, scruffy dog. Elvis lifted the microphone with his free hand. His voice was different now. Softer. More vulnerable than anyone had ever heard it. "Folks, I apologize for stopping the song. But I want to introduce you to someone. This little friend was found backstage tonight. Abandoned. Scared. Hungry. And I couldn't continue this show without letting you know that sometimes, the most important thing we can do is stop. Stop everything. And pay attention to something small that needs our help." The crowd was mesmerized. Some people started crying. Elvis continued. "We get so caught up in our big lives, our big shows, our big dreams. But this little soul right here, it doesn't care about any of that. It just needs love. It needs to know it matters." And then Elvis did something that would echo through history for decades. He looked down at the dog, then back at the crowd. "I'm going to finish this song. But I'm finishing it for this little one. Because tonight, this is who needs to hear it most." He nodded to his band. They picked up the melody again, softer this time, more intimate. Elvis began to sing, "Can't Help Falling in Love," while holding the dog close to his chest. His voice carried across the arena, but it felt like he was singing to one listener. The dog had stopped trembling. It rested its head against Elvis's chest, eyes half closed, finally at peace. The crowd watched in absolute silence as Elvis delivered the most tender, heartfelt performance of that song anyone had ever witnessed. When the song ended, there was a beat of silence. Then the entire arena erupted. But it wasn't the usual screaming and applause. People were standing, yes. But many were crying. Some were hugging each other. The energy had shifted from entertainment to something sacred. Something human. Elvis smiled, tears visible on his own cheeks. He held up the dog slightly, so everyone could see. "This little one is going to come home with me tonight. And I want everyone here to remember something. Fame doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. What matters is this. Compassion. Kindness. Seeing something that needs help and not walking past it." Backstage after the show, Elvis's team was buzzing. The media was already calling it the most memorable concert moment of the decade. But Elvis wasn't thinking about that. He was in his dressing room, sitting on the floor, the dog in his lap. He'd sent someone to an all-night pet store for supplies. Food, a bed, toys, a collar. His manager entered. "Elvis, that was incredible. The phones are ringing off the hook. Everyone wants to know about the dog." Elvis didn't look up. "His name is Memphis. And he's not a publicity stunt. He's family now." The manager nodded slowly, understanding. This was different. This was real. Elvis took Memphis home that night. The dog never left his side. In the months that followed, Elvis was photographed constantly with Memphis. At Graceland. On tour buses. In recording studios. The dog became as iconic as Elvis himself. But more importantly, Elvis's act that night sparked something. Donations to animal shelters across America skyrocketed. People who had never thought about adopting suddenly were filling shelters looking for dogs that needed homes. Elvis received thousands of letters from fans telling him how his compassion had inspired them to help animals in their own communities. Share this story if you believe that true greatness is measured not by fame, but by compassion. But the impact went deeper than statistics. Elvis himself changed. Those who knew him said Memphis brought out something softer in him. Something more grounded. In interviews, he would talk about how that moment on stage reminded him of his own childhood. Of feeling abandoned. Of understanding what it meant to be helpless and scared. "That dog taught me more in one night than I'd learned in 20 years of performing," Elvis said in a rare candid interview months later. "It reminded me that the real power we have isn't in how high we can climb, but in how low we're willing to bend to help someone who's fallen." Memphis lived with Elvis for the rest of the King's life. The dog was there during recording sessions. During family gatherings. During quiet moments when Elvis needed to remember what mattered. When Elvis passed away in 1977, Memphis was found lying outside his bedroom door, waiting for him to emerge. The dog was taken in by Elvis's family, living out its days at Graceland, a symbol of one night when a superstar stopped the world to save something small. Today, at Graceland, there's a small memorial to Memphis. Not because he was Elvis's dog, but because he represented something larger. A moment when humanity trumped spectacle. When kindness became the headline. Visitors to Graceland often stop at that memorial. Many leave flowers. Some leave letters. All of them remember the story of the night Elvis stopped singing to save a life. And in remembering, they carry forward the lesson he taught. That greatness isn't about the size of your stage. It's about the size of your heart. The footage from that concert still circulates online. Grainy, black and white, but powerful. You can see it clearly. Elvis stopping mid-song. Walking off stage. Returning with something small and precious. The look on his face. Pure love. Pure purpose. No performance. Just truth. Subscribe and comment below if this story moved you. Let's keep Elvis's legacy of compassion alive. That scruffy little dog found backstage on a summer night in 1974 didn't just find an owner. It found a champion. And in return, it gave Elvis something he'd been searching for his entire life. A reminder that beneath the jumpsuits and the screaming crowds and the gold records, he was still the boy from Tupelo who understood what it meant to need saving. In the weeks that followed that concert, something remarkable happened across America. Shelters reported a surge they'd never seen before. Families who never considered adoption were showing up, asking specifically for dogs that had been abandoned. They called it the Elvis effect. Radio stations ran segments about it. Newspapers wrote features. But Elvis himself stayed quiet about it. He didn't want credit. He just wanted Memphis to be safe. One journalist managed to corner him months later at a recording session. "Mr. Presley, people are calling you a hero for what you did with that dog." Elvis shook his head, uncomfortable with the praise. "I'm not a hero. That dog is. He reminded me what's real. In this business you can lose yourself. You can forget that beneath all this." He gestured at his elaborate stage outfit. "You're just a person. Memphis brought me back." The band members who were on stage that night never forgot it either. His guitarist later said in an interview, "We'd played hundreds of shows with Elvis. We thought we'd seen everything. But that moment when he stopped singing and held that dog? That was when we understood who he really was. Not Elvis Presley the star. Just Elvis. A man with a heart bigger than any stage." Memphis became a fixture at Graceland. Staff members would find Elvis sitting in the garden with the dog, just talking to it quietly. No cameras. No audience. Just a man and his companion. Elvis had everything money could buy, but that dog reminded him daily that the best things in life can't be purchased. They can only be given freely. Memphis the dog is gone now. Elvis is gone. But that moment lives on. In videos. In stories. In the hearts of everyone who understands that sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is stop. Stop everything you're doing. Stop the show. Stop the noise. And pay attention to something small that needs your help. Because that's what legends do. They show us that fame is fleeting, but kindness is forever. And it all started with a scared little dog and a man who refused to walk past suffering. That's why 50 years later, we're still telling this story. Some moments don't just make headlines. They make history.